cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close. He's given him. He's given him. Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday.
Welcome back to the On the Ball podcast. This is episode 32. That's an absolute guess. It could be episode 30.
It's 33.
33. I'm so bad with the episode numbers, but
It's all right, man.
Welcome back to the show. As you have just heard, we're once again joined by Pilch. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, mate. How are we, boys?
Yeah, good. Thanks. And we are once again joined by the resident AFL expert and Bundesliga expert.
Yes.
Angus Rowe. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's good to be back.
How have we been, boys? Enjoying the footy?
Yeah, it's been unreal. I think I've watched basically every single match since it restarted, so it's been good.
Yeah, it did look like there for a little period that it might be called off once again, but it looks like we're going to see out the rest of the season, albeit in maybe some unusual circumstances, but I think we're going to get there. So today we're going to be doing a monthly AFL review. So there's been a month, so 4 more rounds since we came back from lockdown, or the AFL resumed, and we're just going to go team by team, and we're just going to maybe chat for 5 minutes on each side. We're going to give them a rating out of 10, and award an MVP, and just generally chat about how that club's fared this month. So we may as well just get straight into it. We're going alphabetical order, but it is a little bit confusing because we have made some changes. Because new to this episode, we're going to be getting some people who aren't guests on the show, so not Pilch or Rowie, to send in their thoughts on how their teams perform. So you'll understand that maybe a little bit more when we get to it. But so yes, Adelaide first up. Let's be real, they've not had a crash hot month. They've gone 0-4. I believe they're the only team. They're the only team left without a win. Am I right?
That is correct. Yeah.
They lost to Freo on the weekend, which was the battle of at the moment it was the current battle for last place. How have you seen their month, Rowie?
Saying very poor is an understatement. They're like, I think there was a few people saying VFL teams or seconds teams could beat them by the way they played, especially on the weekend. I don't know if anyone watched that first quarter or two, but every second just disposal of the ball was a turnover straight back to Freo. Their boys was deplorable, especially with their best players. The two Crouch brothers specialising in handballs. It's not looking great. They don't seem to enjoy when they play. You see teams like Collingwood and Richmond always laughing with each other as they run out onto the grounds. But Adelaide it just looks like a bit of a chore when they play. It's just they've got no real talent in the team. I mean, they're always kicking to blokes that are fringe players like McAdam, Frampton, who have played literally less than 10 games with the main targets of the weekend. So, yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah, what about you, Pilch?
Yeah, totally agree. Half the team to me looks disinterested. Their pressure, they bring up the pressure gauge in their matches, and it's always in the right in the red for the poor section. And yeah, it's got to be the worst start to an AFL season in a long time. And yeah, they've got to.
Most have probably had a few worse, but
because they normally start strong. The last few years, they're always like 2-1. Yeah. But yeah, the Crows have been absolutely dreadful. People thought they were going to be bad, but probably not this bad.
Yeah.
I do have to say, when we did our predictions before round 2, I did kind of get Adelaide a bit wrong. I said maybe 12th then. I know you, Rowie, and Brody both had them in 17th, which is looking a lot more accurate.
Yeah.
If you had to put a number on it, out of 10, what are you rating Adelaide's month?
Oh.
I'm going to be generous and say 2, but that's due to expectation purely. Yeah. If it was based on performance alone, they'd barely get a 1. But given they were expected to be pretty poor, I'll give them a 2 just because I think a couple of their young players may look okay. But yeah.
What are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a 1 because they've had the young players, some of them look all right, but the fact that all their senior players, none of them are performing. They're all in career worst form. They all look disinterested. Tex Walker absolutely shirked an uncontested chest mark on the weekend. So, yeah, I'm giving them a 1 out of 10.
Yeah, enough. Very fair enough. If you this is a tough task. If you had to name an MVP, Rowie, who would you give it to for the Crows?
I hate to do it because I think he's definitely not one of the most impacting players. Like, I'd love to give it to like Laird or Smith, but probably just has to be Brad Crouch. He's usually in their best players. Just probably has to be him.
Yeah, this one, it was a tough one for me because they've all been so woeful. I mean, Brad Crouch has been all right, but Tom Duday's been all right as well. He's been taking a few intercept marks, but yeah, I'll go Brad Crouch as well.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the consensus pick. I'd say he's been racking it up as he normally does, but yeah, as we were saying before, not that impactful with it, but probably the best of a bad bunch, I'd say.
Spot
They've
on.
got West Coast coming up and St Kilda, who they're both actually in pretty handy form. West Coast only kind of snapped their bad run of form on the weekend, but St Kilda have been fairly decent in the last 4 rounds, so wouldn't shock me if they continue that losing streak. Next, we're going to have our first fan, perspective. I don't really know what to call it. We're moving on to the Brisbane Lions, and the fan we've got is Alex Gibson, Gibbo, big mate of ours. We've all played cricket with him at points. So yeah, we'll hand it over to Gibbo, and we'll see what he was thinking.
Hey Corker, absolutely stoked to be on your show, mate. I did notice a few episodes ago, copped a bit of a clip for my captaincy mishap, which was me and not Rob, so I do apologise and I'll chin that one. But obviously, here today to talk about the Mighty Lions, which makes me even happier. And obviously, we're going really well at the moment. We've played 4 games at home and 4 wins since the lockdown, which, I mean, you can't complain at all. But obviously, I was a bit nervous going into the Freo game because I thought that our loss against Hawthorn was pretty disappointing and we did not play good football. Obviously, they're a good team and coach well, but our leaders didn't stand up that day and I think it cost us. So going to the Freo game, I was quite nervous about it, but I think we were the best team all day, but we just couldn't seem to kick ahead. I don't think we would have been up by more than 3 goals for the entire game, where we probably were, a 4-goal lead team on that day, but obviously Walters and Fife stood up for them, and for there to be a minute to go in the game and us only up by a goal, you'd be pretty nervous as a supporter. And I was definitely getting a little bit on the edge of my seat. But for us to escape that game with a win and get 4 points on the board is obviously a massive result. And then going to the West Coast game, obviously a bit of expectation again, the Brisbane win. But I think people sort of discredit that win a little bit. I think West Coast are still a good quality football side, and their midfield is obviously quite elite. And for us to... I think we won by about 5 or 6 goals that day. So you're going to take that any day of the week, really. So really happy with that. And then going into the Adelaide game, obviously another frustrating game to watch. You look at the likes of McCluggage and Neil kicking 11 behinds between them is frustrating. But, I mean, for someone like Hugh McCluggage, he's still a 21, 22-year-old. For him to be getting 7 shots on goal as a midfielder in a game, it just speaks volumes about his capabilities going forward and what he can be one day. So, obviously, you're still in the honeymoon phase, I suppose, as a Brisbane Lions supporter. You look at 2013 and, we were in Adelaide sort of crisis in mode in a way that we were getting all these young players in and people were leaving. And, you look forward back then and you were a bit worried about where the club was going and how it was going to be resurfaced. But obviously, you're still going to take every single win. So that Adelaide win, you're still happy walking away from it, even though you should have won by probably 80 points. But you're still happy, like I said. And then, obviously, on the weekend's game against Port, there was a bit of expectation that it was going to be a good game of footy. But I honestly think that Brisbane covered Port in most assets of the game. I think we whacked them in the second quarter. That's probably one of the best quarters of footies I've watched from a Brisbane point of view. The way we were able to move the ball, and obviously Fags' game plan is around getting the ball inboard and then our best distributors kicking into our forward 50. And blokes like Hipwood and McStay played really well, and we've got a good good young list. But I think people underrate Jared Berry a lot. He's in the same conversation as a Hipwood or McCluggage. Obviously not as good as McCluggage, but for his role within the team is just as important as someone like Huey. But I think he's honestly going to be a future captain of that club one day. I'll book that one in. But obviously going forward into hub life, we're not really sure what to expect from a supporter's point of view. But I was speaking to Benno the other day, and he was saying how the Suns were sort of similar to the Lions in the fact that I think their teams they put on in the weekend were the bottom 5 in terms of list ages, being the youngest. And that means when you're looking at hub life, everyone's complaining about the fact they're moving away from their families and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Brisbane and the Gold Coast, they're a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds, even younger, who already live out of home. So for them to head over there, they shouldn't be too fazed by it. And Benno wasn't too fazed at all. And obviously, Brisbane have got the fact in Fags, who's obviously our senior coach and been in the industry for years. So his expertise and experience in that situation, we should be able to rally our group together. Obviously, Brisbane really seem to be a real tight-knit group, which will help them. And then going forward, we should really make top 4. And I suppose people are saying we're the team to beat at the moment, which we probably are if we play at the Gabba. And going forward in years to come, to have at least 12-odd games at the Gabba is a massive advantage for us. And we should be contending for a flag at least this year. But like I said, we're still a young team, so there can't be too much expectation. But that's my wrap, mate. Like I said, absolutely stoked to be part of your show, and keep up the good work.
All right, thanks for that one, Gibbo. Thanks for the kind words as well, mate. What do you guys think of what Gibbo had to say? We'll start with you, Pilch.
Some good analysis by Gibbo there, I must say. But it's pretty obvious that Brisbane have been the best team in the competition by some way since lockdown. They've been playing some great footy. Had some accuracy issues against Adelaide, but against the Power, they sadly outplayed us. Their forward line was unreal. Every time they bombed it in, they were scoring in that second quarter. But hard to fault them at this stage.
Yeah, if you had to give them a rating and an MVP, who would you go? Pilch, we'll go with you.
Well, as Gibbo said, they've got a great list, but Lachie Neale's probably been the best player in the competition so far, so you can't really give it to anyone else.
Yeah.
And then 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, all right, Roy. What about you? What do you think of Brisbane this month?
Obviously very hard to fault. Obviously their only loss coming in round 1, and you can't really take much away from round 1, which I think what we've all learned. Adelaide actually put up a half decent performance. Gold Coast didn't. And obviously those teams are both switched. So, it's just that slight inability to kick away from teams that Gibbo touched on that's really just holding them back, but only slightly. Will it come to haunt them later in the season? Maybe. They are really hard to fault. They are the team to beat in the competition. Every other team since they returned, you can say a couple of negative things about them, but you come to Brisbane, you can't really, apart from their minor goal-kicking issues.
Yeah, I will say they've played. I'm pretty sure they've played every game at the Gabba since lockdown. So I'd like to see how they fare away from home this season, because obviously they lost to Hawthorn at the G in round 1. So, but
that is true.
Yeah, that's interesting what they'll do, because aren't there a few teams who are gone up to hub in Queensland?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Lions will have got another
So
stretch.
they might just have to cop more home games this year, which would be obviously great for them. If you had to give them a number out of 10, an MVP, Rowie?
I'll give them, as a baseline expectation, I'll give them 9 out of 10, just because everyone expects them to be good. I think it's just that goal kicking, just unable to kick away from teams might just hinder them slightly, which I think lots of other teams are doing well at the moment, like St Kilda, for example. But probably 9 out of 10. MVP is Oscar Lachie Neale, 100%. Obviously the clear, probably the Brownlow favourite at the moment, and definitely make all Australian team with his forms at the moment. So it has to be Lachie Neale.
Yeah.
He's racking up disposals for fun, Lockie.
Yeah, on top of the coaches' votes as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
which is
he's miles ahead.
That's usually a pretty good judge of how good a player's been, because like with Brownlow votes, you could be the fourth best player in every game, and you just come out with no votes for the season. I think pretty good. All right, so that's Brisbane done. For those with OCD or anything, sorry to do this to you, but we've got some fans of Carlton, Collingwood, and Essendon, but they're going to be featured in the next episode. So we're moving on to Freo. So a bit of a roller coaster here, from bad to good to bad. As we just touched on before when we were talking about Adelaide, they were in a shootout to get their first win on the weekend. They did defeat the Adelaide Crows. Pilch, how have you seen their month?
Well, obviously they've gone 1-3, but I actually don't mind them, because they haven't really been thumped by anyone, and they've played, other than Adelaide on the weekend, they've played some pretty handy sides in the power. And Brisbane, was it? Yeah, played Brisbane. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, considering that, I think they should be rated a lot higher than Adelaide at the moment, and I think they'll get a few wins this season.
Yeah, and first round I know we're not including the first round, but they only lost by a goal to Essendon as well.
Yeah.
And Fife did miss the Freo clash. I know it's an 22 player game, but Fife is arguably one of the best in the comp, so big out. Rowie, how'd you see their month?
Yeah, honestly, they are 16th, I think, right now. They just overtook Melbourne. I think they have been probably better than what people have said about them. They've sort of done what's expected. They haven't, lost heavily to anyone. They haven't beaten anyone that they shouldn't have beat, but they've sort of done what's expected. Obviously, they weren't going to have a great season. I think the loss of Hill was a lot is going to impact them a lot more than people thought, and it has, because now they're essentially a two-man team. But you see the likes of Brayshaw and Tucker and Chera coming through. Some good talent, and Tucker, I think, was one of the best players on the weekend. Kicked the match-winning goal and all that. So they've done pretty well. Obviously, nearly beat Brisbane in that game. But yeah, I think they've done pretty well, also considering they've lost 5 for a week and managed to get the job done against Adelaide. So yeah, I think they've been okay.
Yeah, Brayshaw was... I've actually probably watched Freo more than any other side this month. I haven't watched too much footy, hence why I'm not pitching in too much. But yeah, Brayshaw was awesome yesterday, so maybe could be looking for a breakout year. And then against Port, they went down by 29, but I didn't actually think they played that bad. And also, I really like the look of Hayden Young. He looks like he's going to become one of the best kicks in the comp just only a couple seasons, I reckon. He's got a lethal left foot. So if you had to give them a rating out of 10 and an award and MVP, Rosef, who are you going?
I'll give them, given they're still 16th on the ladder, they still have to do a bit better. I'll give them a 5 out of 10. They are a two-man team at the moment, so it's obviously making it tough. MVP, probably still going to be 5, even though he missed that game. Walters obviously second, but yeah, I'll have to give that 1 to 5.
Yeah. Pilch?
Yeah, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10, because, I mean, they weren't really expected to push for the top 8 or anything like that. And as Rowie said, a lot of their young players have shown some pretty good signs. Brayshaw, Chera, etc. So I think there are some positives at Freo, and then obviously Fife MVP as well. He's been unreal.
All right. Moving on to Geelong, this is our second team with a fan mention. So we've got Tyler Reid, good mate of ours. I'd like to publicly apologise for Tyler. I used to give him I used to lift him off quite a bit in Year 10 school footy at lunchtime. It was pretty undeserved, and looking back, pretty embarrassing. So sorry about that one, but yeah. Here we go. Let's hear what he had to say about the Cats.
Hey, so Geelong's season post-lockdown has been alright. So far, we've had the 3 wins and just the 1 loss to Carlton, which we really should have turned into a win considering how well we played in the last quarter. But really happy with the game against Hawthorn and the Gold Coast game, particularly the second halves. Overall, I'd probably give us a 7.5 out of 10. Could have done better, especially against Carlton and Melbourne. but the Hawthorn and Gold Coast games really lift that rating up. For an MVP, it's hard to go past Mitch Duncan. He's always consistent, and this year's been no different at all. Selwood, Parfitt, Menegola, probably second, third and fourth. But overall, yeah, pretty happy with Geelong's performance so far. Currently sitting third on the ladder, so hopefully we can take that into the finals.
Thanks for that one, Tyler. Rowie, what did you make of Geelong's month?
I mean, the words from Tyler come from a Geelong supporter, so I wasn't as pleased with them as he probably was. They've got one of the most exciting lists in the comp. They've got Danger and Selwood in the middle. They've got Parfitt and Narkle coming through, obviously possess loads of X factor between them. Duncan and Guthrie on the outsides. Ablett, Dalhouse forward with Hawkins, Stew in the backline. Blitzars can do anything. They barely beat Melbourne. They were down in the third quarter to Gold Coast, who are obviously a quality side at the moment. But they play some of the most boring footy for such a quality side I've seen in a long time. And obviously the loss to Carlton is, for a team that should be top four, going deep into the finals, this last month honestly hasn't looked like it from me. They've been underwhelming in my views, given their expectations and their list. Only the round one that gets them. Only the round one win that gets them a. So I don't know what I've written down there. But anyway, they've been obviously okay, couple of wins, but those losses looked really underwhelming in my point of view, especially for a quality side.
Yeah. Pilch, what did you reckon?
Yeah. Geelong have been pretty inconsistent so far. I mean, the loss against Carlton wasn't great, but the reality is they've gone 3-1. They're third on the ladder with a great percentage, and they did blitz the Hawks and got the job done over Melbourne and Gold Coast. And Gold Coast have been looking pretty good, so I do think they're probably not quite. I mean, people would have been expecting a definite top four finish for them, but I mean, they're third on the ladder, so can't really. They've probably been about average for me.
Yeah. Big two weeks coming up for them. They've got Brisbane at the SCG, which is a bit of an old one. And then even more strange, they've got Collingwood at Optus. So, albeit weird venues, two pretty big matchups for them.
Yeah, a couple of big games there.
If you had to rate them out of 10 and give them an MVP, Row, who are you going?
Based on what they should be delivering, especially the poor performances against Carlton, Melbourne, and the first half against Gold Coast, we give them a 5. MVP. Deciding between Duncan and Danger. I might go Duncan, just because he has been unreal this year. With Danger, obviously, a close second.
Pilch?
Yep, I may have been maybe a bit lenient with some of my ratings here, but I've given them a 7 just because they have gone 3-1 and they're third on the ladder. And then the MVP, it was a tough one, but I've actually gone Joel Selwood. He's playing a bit more inside midfield so far this season, racking up clearances, and he's having a good impact. I've liked what he's produced so far. And Danger's been subpar to what he's expected to do. So,
yeah, fair enough. On to the Suns. Obviously, there's no fan one for this one.
Stiff, mate. Low blow.
It would be pretty tough to find. However, in saying that, they might have gained a few fans this month because they've done pretty well. They're sitting in 6th. Pilch, what did you make of their month?
Yeah, bandwagon forming there for them. Obviously they've had a brilliant month since ISO. Matt Rowell is an absolute weapon. I think he came into third favourite for the Brownlow on the bookies until he did his shoulder. But yeah, their list is so young, so they're very promising. And I'm pretty sure before the season people was going like, 0-22 for the Suns, so they've completely outdone their expectations.
Yeah, Rowie?
I'm not a fan of having second favourite teams, but Gold Coast has definitely become mine. Matt Rowell has become my religion as well. They're awesome to watch. They're actually some of the most. They play some of the most exciting footy this year of any other team. And it's just awesome to watch. Look, if someone was to tell me that a 30-point loss to Geelong at Cardinia Park, where they were down in the third quarter, when they were winning in the third quarter, was going to be their biggest blemish since coming back from the isolation, then you would have just said that they were wrong. But that really has been the biggest low point since coming back, was that loss to Geelong, and that really wasn't a heavy loss at all. So I think they've been awesome, definitely defied all the odds and expectations of them. So, yeah, it's looking good for them.
Yeah, they've been pretty incredible. I've actually caught a bit of the Suns, and yeah, as you guys were saying, they've just been so exciting to watch. And not only doing that, they're getting the results on the scoreboard. Pilch, if you had to award an MVP and give them a rating.
Well, this actually might be a bit stiff, but I've snubbed them of the 10. I've gone a 9 out of 10 just because, I mean, they haven't produced perfect footy, but their midfield's looking unreal this year. And then MVP, obviously Matt Rao, by a country mile.
I'll give them a 9.5 just because no one expected them to be, I guess, as good as they are at the moment. And yeah, MVP to Matt Rao. Jared Wicks has done really well and deserves an honourable mention, but yeah, I'll have to give it to Matt Rao.
Yeah, fair enough. Rao's is he second or third in the coaches' votes? He's right up there, and
I think he's
wouldn't have got votes on the weekend.
I think he might be second on 30 votes.
He was the second ever player, I think, to score perfect 10s 3 weeks in a row since the coaches' votes came in, if I'm not mistaken. So that's from a third, fourth game, I know that's awesome.
All right, next we're moving on to the next expansion team. Can you even call them expansion teams? That happened 10 years ago. But GWS, Pilch, what do you think of the Giants month?
Yeah, look, similar with Geelong, they have been a bit inconsistent. I mean, they started off with losses to North and the Bulldogs, but since then they've had a couple of great wins against Collingwood and Hawks. Although the Pies actually haven't looked too good, it's still a good win. And yeah, they've set themselves up over the past couple of weeks for a good season, and I think they'll be right in the mix for the top 4. And they've played some good attacking footy as well. Their inside 50 conversion on the weekend was 26 inside 50s for 18 scores or something ridiculous like that. So they've been efficient going forward as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think touching on what Pilch said, I think they have set their season up well. Obviously, their record at the moment is 3-2, but those most recent 2 games were obviously 2 of their wins. So they've sort of brushed off their previous losses, which were also largely due to injuries. I think that Dogs game, Whitfield obviously went down early. I think Kelly was a late out, and Taranto's obviously gone. Look, they beat Collingwood as well. I think that was a massive victory for them. That was really the turning point. Got them back to where they belong, sort of close to the top of the ladder. And obviously they beat Collingwood, who smashed the Saints the week before. That was some of the best footy I think a club have ever played this season. So to beat them on their home turf the next week by a few points, I think that was a win that almost deserves more than 4 points, probably in their eyes, because that really was a turning point for them. And I think that's highly regarded at the club at the moment. That's what is going to be the turning point for their season after those early losses. But yeah.
Yeah, big 2 rounds for them coming up. They've got Port at Metricon and then the Lions in Sydney. Because they're at the moment they're not doing too bad. They're sitting in 7th, so they'll cop that. But if they lose those 2, then all of a sudden they're 3-4 in a 17-round season, which probably would see their top 4 hopes potentially dashed early. Pilch, if you had to give, the usual thing by now.
I do, mate. Yeah, tough game for them against the Power this week at Metricon. That is true, but seeing as though they've turned their season around nicely, a couple of great wins last 2 weeks. So I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. And MVP, this one was a tough one as well. There were a few. Harry Perryman's been unreal.
Man.
Phil Davis, as usual. Josh Kelly's starting to play well, but Nick Haynes, every time I watch the Giants, he seems to take about 27 intercept marks and then just a beautiful kick-off half-back with his flowing blonde locks. So, yeah, Nick Haynes gets my vote there.
Rowie?
Yeah, I'm going to also agree with you. 7 out of 10 for me. And definitely Nick Haynes. He has one of the best under 18 draft profile photos you'll ever see. Go search it up if you haven't seen it. And if you were to say that he's going to be one of the best intercept markers come 2020 and probably all Australian, then expecting great things from him. But yeah, he's been really good for them. So yeah, 7 out of 10, and Nick Haynes is the MVP so far for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Pilch, you got a fair few bromances in the Giants side, so it must have been a tough selection for you.
Yeah, that is true. It was tough to go against Josh Kelly, but
yeah,
he has missed a game.
A few posters on the wall for you, I reckon, of that man. Now, moving on to Hawthorn. We have another fan submission. This is a bit of a short one, but let's hand it over to James Curtis.
So I'm somewhat happy with Hawks' start so far. We're 3-2, sitting at 9th. Our wins have been reasonably impressive. We've beat Brisbane, who have turned out to be a pretty decent side. We've beat last year's premiers Richmond, and we also beat what was an in-form North Melbourne at the time. But our losses have also been pretty concerning. So we got blitzed by Geelong, and then also by GWS most recently, who are obviously going to be premiership contenders. But yeah, big concerned about the big losses we've had. We've shown some pretty inconsistent form, but overall reasonably happy. Also a bit concerned about our percentage, which is quite low, but I can see us being a reasonable team, probably just shifting. So I'd give it a 7 out of 10. So it's not bad, but could be better, I reckon. And I'd say Jaeger O'Meara is MVP at the moment because I think he displayed his importance to the team in that return after the Geelong loss. And he just racked up disposals. So obviously, yeah, showed his importance and obviously came home with the W that day. So yeah.
All right, Pilch, what do you make of Coitus's comments?
Yeah, some wise words there from Curtis, but he's a diehard Hawks fan, so we can't argue with what he says. But yeah, they have been inconsistent as they normally are over the last couple of seasons. But a great win over the Tigers. They dusted up North and Melbourne. So I mean, they're probably about where their percentage is obviously harming them, but they're equal third at 3-2. So I mean, I do think they've done all right so far, and they've played some good footy at points.
Yeah, I know it might be a factor in such a short season, but I'm not really talking about percentage in round 5. But yeah, Rowie, what do you think?
Yeah, since returning to footy, they've had one exceptional performance, one mediocre, and 2 poor. That win against North, given their lead, it nearly felt like a loss to them. I mean, Alistair Clarkson's press conference after the game, all he talked about was the umpires and all that. The players walking off didn't look, like they just won a grand final. They just looked as though they've just played another game of footy. And yeah, given they forgot how to play footy against North in that last quarter, it's expected. And that would have been a very awkward singing of the song, I think, by them. Because honestly, I think everyone was disappointed in each other for that performance they dished up at the end of the game. But they did win. One thing I always notice, there's always a different set of goal kickers for them. So it's really hard to pinpoint who their main 6 forwards are, which I think will hold them back later in the season. Just given the lack of chemistry there's probably going to be between the forward 6 every match. But they've been okay. I do want to see a bit more of them, though, if they want to make top 8, as Curtis pointed out.
Yeah, they've got Collingwood this weekend, so that'll be an interesting one.
Big game there.
Probably haven't been too happy with their last couple of performances, so we'll see how they go there. Pilch, if you have to give them a rating.
Yeah, look, 6 out of 10 for me. I think they're just about where they're meant to be. I wouldn't have thought I would have probably tipped them to come around 8th or 9th by season's end. And so, 6 out of 10. And the MVP, it pains me to say it, breaks the heart, but Chad Wingard, he's probably been their best player so far. Tom Mitchell hasn't really got going. Still looks like a lingering injury issue there. But, yeah, Chaddy's been unreal for them. He's been kicking goals, helping out in the midfield. I think he got a perfect 10 2 rounds ago in the coaches. And I think he might be in like the top 6 in the competition, in the coaches' votes, something like that. So, yeah.
Stiff snubbing of Scrimmy there, mate. But Rowie, what rating have you got them?
I'll give them a 6.5. I'll go with a decimal. That win against Richmond really helped their rating. MVP, yeah, I think it has to be Wingard. He's sort of gone under the radar, I think, under the eyes of a lot of supporters. I think McAvoy's done really well for them as well, and Smith for his age. But yeah, I think Wingard's got to be the MVP for them at the moment. Obviously scored that perfect 10 against North, and yeah.
Yeah, I'll just assume you guys haven't given Scrimmy the MVP because he got injured yesterday.
Because on track for 40.
He was on track to get my MVP, but
yeah, it's very stiff. By his own accord, he said he would have had 40 if he completed the match.
Jackson, second.
Now, moving on to your two sides, we've had a few late changes to the team lists, team orders. So, yeah, once again, sorry if you love your orders and categories because we're changing up the alphabet here. But we'll start with Port, Pilcher's team. How have you seen their month, mate, post lockdown?
Yeah, look, I've been really impressed with the power. I think they've been one of the best teams in the competition. They've played some great footy. Their pressure has been a huge difference from last season. Pressure's been really high, playing good footy, and getting it into the inside 50. That was our downfall last season. And this year we've really stepped that up. And also Big Charlie's looked unreal so far. So we got dusted up by the Brisbane forward line on the weekend. Unfortunately, the defence had a bit of a stinker, but I'm optimistic about the power this year. I think we'll be right up there, and I think people will be sleeping on us after the weekend's game.
What do you reckon, Rowie, as an outsider looking in?
Yeah, I think they've obviously been one of the best in the competition. They're definitely in that top 4 range in terms of performances. They have obviously played some easy teams, but they have put them away, which is something that Brisbane, obviously probably the best team in the competition, hasn't been able to do. Charlie Dixon's obviously been largely responsible for that, and so just the goal kicking mids and forwards for them. They've all delivered really well. Connor Rosini's second year just continues to kick bags and excite the fans watching. I think obviously the loss on the weekend brought them a little bit back down to earth. They are a quality side, no doubt about that. But I think the game against GWS will really show how they perform against those top teams. Obviously, they'll make finals. There's no doubt about that, unless a miracle happens. But it'll be interesting to see how they perform this week and whether the Port that we've seen for the last month is the true Port, and whether that loss the weekend was just a little minor one, just one of those one-off ones. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see this weekend against the Giants. Definitely looking forward to it. It's the match of the round for me, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure you predicted them to come 6th or something, which is a pretty good effort because I don't reckon many people had them in finals, let alone like above 8 or anything. So
even 6 is too low at the moment. Yeah.
If you had to rate them out of 10,
I'll give them a 9. That loss obviously is stopping them from being a 9.5 or a 10. But yeah, they've been very, very solid against those teams that they needed to beat, and they did. MVP, Boak or Dixon, might have to just go Dixon over Boak. He's doing purely because he's doing what lots of tall forwards don't really do anymore. I think there was a long stretch of games in between the time someone kicked 6 goals and Dixon's 6 against the Eagles. So he's obviously showing the rest of the competition how to do it. So I'm going to give Charlie the MVP.
Yeah. Pilch, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I've given them a 9 as well. I think we have played easy teams, but as you said, Rowie, we've dusted them up with absolute ease. And I think the win against West Coast by 50 points, that was an underrated win, because I'll put money that West Coast will be right up there come the end of the season. And yeah, Dixon's been unreal, but I've got to give it to Trav Boak. I think he's an absolute elite of the competition this year and last year. He's really elevated his game. He leads the competition in inside 50s so far this season. He's always racking up 8 to 10 clearances. And yeah, so Boakey, Butters a close third as well. He's been unreal.
Yeah, I think I watched 2 of their matches, but yeah, Butters has been unreal. Arguably better than Rosie this season.
Yeah, agreed. And then as well as hate to gloat about my boys, but we do have a very, very young list, like Gold Coast and Lions, how we touched on before. A lot of the young boys hitting their straps. So optimistic about the future as well.
Yeah, especially Samuel Powpepper. Fine form. Rowie, moving on to your boys, the Saners.
Yes.
How have you viewed their month?
Typically, like every season, there's 2 types of St Kilda. There's the good one, the bad one, which you can say about any team, really. But it's very clear with the Saints. You'll tell within the first 10 minutes of the game which team has turned up to the park. Coincidentally, the good St Kilda's always turned up at Marvel against the slightly worse team. So we are doing well. If you were to say we'd be this record in the start of the year, I'd take it, especially given wins against the Tigers, and putting away Carlton and the Dogs. Loss to the Pies hurt us. We got taught how to play footy really that day. They completely annihilated us, and that's not even an understatement. We just did not play well, and the scoreboard honestly should have been a greater margin. We do suit the dimensions of Etihad's Marvel, so it'll be interesting to see how we play away from there for a while. I've been very, very happy with the inclusions of Jones, Hill, Butler, and obviously Howard as well. They've been some of our best players. Phil, you're probably a bit filthy about Howard leaving, but he's been unreal. Him and Carlisle and Wilkie kept Casbolt, Mackay, and their other tall, McGovern, to 0 goals and I think like 14 touches between them on the weekend. So they've all been really good. Jones's pace, Butler's pace is exactly what we needed, and Hill, obviously. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next month of footy to see where we're at. We're obviously playing Freo in Adelaide. Hopefully can set us up for potentially a finals chase by the end of the year, but going to not go ahead of my expectations. I'm going to try and stay realistic with us, and, yeah, fingers crossed.
Pilch.
Yeah, look, the power certainly could have done with Dougal Howard on the weekend. Tom Cleary got absolutely obliterated by McStay, and could have done with Howard's height and punching ability there. But yeah, look at Saners. I watched the game against the Pies, and I've gone, oh no, Saners bottom 4. But since then, something's switched, and they've produced some unreal footy. I was really impressed with their last 2 wins over the Tigers and the Blues as well. The Saners were clearly the better team against the Blues. Probably should have been a bigger margin there. So yeah, I think they'll be up there this season, pushing for the top 8, and definitely a great start to the year.
Yeah, Rowie, if you had to rate them out of 10.
I'm going to give us an 8. It's a season vote. That loss against North shouldn't have happened. So that was very disappointing. And obviously the Pies, that was not good. But the wins have been good. MVP, you're tossing up, honestly, between the recruits and Jack Steele, a worthy nomination. I'm going to give it to Zach Jones. I think he's been very, very underrated in the midfield. Dan Butler, obviously, a very close second. But Zach Jones has been awesome for us in midfield. He's given us that pace that the likes of Dunstan and Steele and Hanbury, and you'd often see in the middle 3, just wouldn't give, obviously, handball specialists and like to tackle but don't really specialise in kicking. And Jones, his kicking isn't his strong suit, but he gets the ball moving, gains a lot of metres in game, and just breaks away from stoppages. So I'm going to give it to Zach Jones. Probably it's a bit of a smoky compared to maybe Butler or Steele and those likes.
Yeah, I actually reckon Zach Jones has been pretty good. Like I remember that I watched them against the Dogs, and I actually thought St Kilda were like genuine grand final contenders. That was like probably the best footy I've ever seen St Kilda play in my short time as an AFL fan. But yeah, no, Zach Jones. I reckon even at Sydney he was underappreciated. Like I feel like a lot of the time in footy, disposals and like disposal efficiency or super coach points are like overvalued. But if you look at some of the best players in the comp, like your Dangers, your Dusties, they chop it a lot of the time. Like I think they were in the top 3 clanger or turnover kickers last season or something like that. And as you were saying, Rowie, Zach Jones, just heaps of meters gains, heaps of pace, which are probably 2 of the best assets to have as a footballer at the moment. Pilch, if you had to rate them.
Yeah, same with Rowie, 8 out of 10 for me. And in terms of the MVP, I agree Zach Jones has been very underrated. He's got some wheels on him, and he's been racking up touches, having an impact on the game. But I had him for 20 plus when he went down injured against the Tigers. So a little bit filthy there. And on the flip side, Dan Butler's been doing wonders for my Sportsbet account, having him 2+ goals each week. But probably gonna have to give it to Jack Steele. I think he's just pipping Dan Butler for me. Billings has been good too, but yeah, Jack Steele.
Yeah, shout out to the Kings as well. I think they've both been pretty elite this month. It's pretty insane, like how good they are. Usually, a tall forward takes ages to develop, or just don't develop at all, as we've seen a lot in the recent drafts with like your Josh Shackies and stuff. But yeah, pretty crazy how good they're going at the moment.
Just quietly, thoughts on Josh Bruce kicking 6 on the weekend? Mate, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Strange.
Hopefully, I want to see him play alongside Cody Waitman. That'd be awesome to see.
Yeah,
both be high flyers, and yeah, that'd be an awesome forward line to watch if Bruce continues to deliver. But yeah, a bit salty with that, given let him go. But Max will be better.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm not.
Josh Battle was good in the forward line on the weekend as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for joining me, lads. We're recording another episode tomorrow night, but when you're listening to this, it will be coming out in another 2 or 3 days. We're just going to be basically doing the 19s we haven't covered today, and we're going to be having some more insights from fans of their clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks for joining me. To those, I don't know if they're still listening, but to those who sent us in their fan opinions, appreciate it a lot. I think it added another dimension to this episode, which hopefully made it a bit more interesting to listen to. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully our opinions haven't been too outrageous or too incorrect and you've just copped them. But yeah, thanks for joining me, lads, and thanks for listening. See ya.
No worries. Cool car. Cheers.
See you, mate.